on Genesis chapter 36. The first 3 verses, now these are the records of the generations of Esau, that is, Edom. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, and the granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. Also Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, the son of Nebaioth. So Esau had 3 wives, and 2 of the wives were from the daughters of Canaan. Now Rebekah and Isaac were disturbed by these 2 pagan wives that their son chose. We read in Genesis 26, verses 34 and 35, and when Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they brought grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Now Esau never should have married these women. It's against Torah to marry Canaanites. They weren't to do that. We read in Deuteronomy 7, starting at verse 1, when Yahweh your Elohim shall bring you into the land where you are entering to possess it, and shall clear away many nations before you, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and stronger than you. And when Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver them before you, and you shall defeat them, then you shall utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, and show no favor to them. Furthermore, you shall not intermarry with them. You shall not give your daughters to their sons, nor shall you take their daughters for your sons. For they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Then the anger of Yahweh will be kindled against you, and he will quickly destroy you. Now, people have looked at this passage here, and Paul did too, looked at it in different ways. The drash or the remez or maybe even the pashat is that believers are not to marry unbelievers. Now, it's not a suggestion. It's the Torah or the instructions of Elohim. But that obviously was not important to Esau. Verses 4 and 5. And Adah bore Eliphaz to Esau, and Basemath bore Reuel, and Oholibamah bore Jeush and Jalem and Korah. These are the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Then Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all his household and his livestock and all his cattle and all his goods which he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to another land away from his brother Jacob. For their property had become too great for them to live together, and the land where they sojourned could not sustain them because of their livestock. Okay, so Esau left that land because there was not enough room for both his clan and the clan of Jacob. So their clans were rather large. Elohim blessed both of them greatly. Now, this was also the situation with Abraham and Lot. That was back in Genesis 13, starting at verse 5. Now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents. And the land could not sustain them while dwelling together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to remain together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. Now the Canaanite and the Perizzite were dwelling in the land, and they ended up splitting up. Let's look at verse 8. So Esau lived in the hill country of Seir. Esau is Edom. Well, they keep reminding us that. Edom. So if you hear the Edomites, where did they come from? Esau, that's right. Okay, now what we're going to do here is go through an exercise where Patrick tries to pronounce words that he can't pronounce very well. Because we're going through the genealogy here, and the genealogy of Esau is not pretty. It's not good. He wasn't a good guy. Verse 9, these then are the records of the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Esau's wife Adah; Reuel, the son of Esau's wife Basemath. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was a concubine of Esau's son Eliphaz, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These are the sons of Esau's wife Adah. These were the sons of Reuel, Nahath, and Zerah, Shaman, and Mizah. These were the sons of Esau's wife Basemath. And these are the sons of Esau's wife Oholibamah. the daughter of Anah, the granddaughter of Zibeon. She bore to Esau. Jeush, Jalem, and Korah. These are the chiefs of the sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, were Chief Teman, Chief Omar, Chief Zopho, and Chief Kenaz. I feel like I'm reading the list of the Marx brothers when I'm reading some of these. Chief Korah, Chief Gadam, Chief Amalek. These are the chiefs descended from Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Adah. These are the sons of Reuel, Esau's sons, Chief Nathan, Chief Zerah, Chief Shammah, Chief Mizah. These are the chiefs descended from Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Esau's wife Basemath. And these are the sons of Esau's wife Oholibamah. Chief Jeush, Chief Jalem, Chief Korah. These are the chiefs descended from Esau's wife Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These are the sons of Esau, that is Edom, and these are their chiefs. These are the sons of Seir, the Horite, the inhabitants of the land. Lotan and Shabal and Zibeon and Anah and Dishon and Ezer and Dishon. These are the chiefs descended from the Horites, the sons of Seir in the land of Edom. And the sons of Lotan were Hori and Heman. And Lotan's sister was Timnah. Timnah. Does that ring a bell? We're going to get into that next week. Timnah, because Timnah becomes a town, a little town in Philistia, in the Philistine area. And what becomes the Philistine area later. And that's where Judah and Tamar get together. And that's kind of a sordid little tale in and of itself. Very interesting one, though. And these are the sons of Shobal, Alvan and Mahanath and Ebal and Shepho and Onam. And these are the sons of Zibeon, Aya and Anah. He is the Anah who found the hot springs in the wilderness when he was pasturing the donkeys of his father Zibeon. These are the children of Anah, Dishon, Oholibamah, and the daughter of Anah. These are the sons of Dishon, Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Kiran. These are the sons of Ezer, Bilhan, Zavan, and Achan. These are the sons of Dishon, Uz, and Aaron. Okay, Uz. People don't name their kids Uz anymore. Well, yeah, right, Ozzy. Well, Job was from the land of Uz. But that's a different guy. You know, they use the names over and over again. All right? Not every name is unique in Scripture. As a matter of fact, translators have gone out of their way to help us with this issue. And we talked about this before, but, you know, there's no book of James in Scripture. His name was actually Jacob or Yaakov. There was no Jude, Judas, all had the same name. The little letter Jude that's right before Revelation. And then Judas, there's Judas Iscariot, and then there's Judas not Iscariot. Remember him? Yeah, he's one of my favorites, Judas not Iscariot. Their name is actually all Judah, the same. Judah, just like the Judah here in Genesis. The reason they changed those names when they translated it was to help, to keep you from being confused. Okay? Well, it confuses me. You know, it's just that's just how it is, I guess. But that's how the translations are done. The place that Job lived was the great grandson of Noah. In Genesis 10, verses 22 and 23, the sons of Shem were Elam and Asher and Arpachshad and Lud and Aram. The sons of Aram were Uz and Hul and Gether and Mash. And Job came from that land that Uz settled in. Now, what I'm going to do, and this is just for the sake of, whoops, look, we skipped that accidentally. There we go. We're on verse 40 all of a sudden. Now, these are the names of the chiefs descended from Esau according to their families and their localities by their names. Chief Timnah, Chief Alva, and Chief Jetheth, Chief Oholibamah, Chief Elah, Chief Pinion, Chief Kenaz, Chief Teman, Chief Mibzar, Chief Magdiel, Chief Iram. These are the chiefs of Edom, that is Esau, the father of the Edomites, according to their habitations in the land of their possession. Elohim promised them that he was going to make them, both the sons, great nations. Okay? And he's proving here that he did that. That's exactly what we found. Now here, This was the genealogy of Esau. We don't hear from Esau ever again. Okay, he's done now as far as Scripture goes. And actually, when he met Jacob and wanted to bite him on the neck till he was dead, that was actually the last time we saw Esau in Scripture, but here is his genealogy. Let's continue on to chapter 37. And by the way, why the genealogy of Esau? We have a lot of genealogies in Scripture, especially here in Genesis. But why Esau? It does. It shows the keeping of the promise. That's exactly right. And also, you can trace some of these to later people. And so you're saying he's a descendant of Esau, which would make him of Arab descent. Is that what you're saying? Yeah? Okay. I'll buy that. Okay. Verses 1 and 2. Oh. Now Jacob lived in the land where his father had sojourned, in the land of Canaan. These are the records of the generations of Jacob. Joseph, when 17 years of age, was pasturing the flock with his brothers while he was still a youth, along with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought back a bad report to them, about them to their father. Okay, these events here that take place, it's sometime before the death of Isaac, when Jacob and his family were living somewhere near Hebron. Now, according to the genealogies given, Isaac died at the age of 180, which would have made Jacob 120 at that time. Joseph had been sold into slavery approximately 12 years before the death of Isaac. So, now sometimes these things aren't chronological, but they want to put, you want to tell the story, but sometimes you want to tell the story about Jacob and Esau and the death of Isaac, and then you want to go back and tell what happened to Joseph. And, you know, sometimes chronology is not precise. But it doesn't have to be. They tell us when these things happened. All we have to do is pay attention. Now, Joseph, he brings back a bad report about his brothers to his dad, to their dad. Now, what was that bad report? I don't know. We're not told. It's a bad report. It's we don't know, but you know what it's going to cause is division. Now, how many of y'all grew up with brothers? Okay. See, I had a brother whom I loved greatly, but he hated me, I guess, because he always fought with me. I always just tried to love him. And all he tried to do was punch me. Yeah, actually, we fought every day. I mean, we didn't need, I didn't need to give a bad report on him. We already were fighting. But these brothers have a problem here, and Joseph is not as innocent as a lot of people think, in my opinion, on this. Verses 3 and 4. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a varicolored tunic. And his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, so they hated him and could not speak to him on friendly terms. You know, this tunic of many colors, that's also been translated as being a long-sleeved coat. It actually had sleeves on it. Or ornamented. We don't know for sure. But they were fancy duds for that day. And they inflamed this jealousy between Joseph and the other brothers. Now, Israel obviously favored Joseph, and his brothers hated him for it. This preference for Joseph, that's rooted in his love for his wife Rachel, who passed away. Joseph is a constant reminder to Jacob, to Israel, of that wife that he loved so dearly. So that was his favorite. Verse 5. Then Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. And he said to them, "Please listen to this dream which I've had. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field. And lo, my sheaf rose up and also stood erect. And behold, your sheaves gathered around and bowed down to my sheaf. Then his brothers said to him, "Are you actually going to reign over us? Or are you really going to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and his words. Well, the meaning is obvious. The brothers picked up on it immediately. The question that comes to my mind here, why did he tell his brothers this dream? You guys are going to serve me. Why would he do that? There are certain people in Scripture for which they say there's no particular sin that's mentioned to them. And people list Joseph, Daniel, and Jonathan, son of Saul. They're normally ones people mentioned in that group. But it seems like to me Joseph has a little sense of pride and a little arrogance about him that his brothers hated. Elohim apparently used that character flaw, if indeed it was, to achieve his purpose with Joseph. But, I'm looking at this. Granted, my brother was arrogant too, spiteful. I was nice, but he was mean. Like Joseph is showing here, he'd tell on me. Well, actually, it went both ways. But you never told me about what you was going to be when he did? No, never did. No, I just tried to irritate him all the time. What is it about irritating a brother that just is fun? It's just, I didn't have allergies when I was a kid, and he did. And I just kept calling him Sniffy. Quit it, Sniffy. Well, then I better look, because he's... Yeah. But you see, Joseph is kind of doing this too. He's doing his own version of this, it seems like to me. Verse 9, now he still had another dream, and related it to his brothers, and said, "Lo, I've had still another dream, and behold, the sun, moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." Well, so here he goes again. But this verse in and of itself, very, very interesting. It is often used as the key to interpreting the identity of the woman in Revelation. In Revelation 12, the first 5 verses, we read, "And a great sign appeared in heaven." Keep in mind, all of Revelation is symbolic. "A woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was with child, and she cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 diadems." Well, let's just stop right here. The woman clothed with the sun, moon, and 12 stars, if you look at the dream here of Jacob, that's the family of Israel. The sun, moon, and 12 stars is what's being referenced here. Now, with that being the case, the woman here is Israel, and she was with child. Now, Israel gave birth to Messiah. And she cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. Another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, that being Satan. And on his heads were 7 diadems. And a tail swept away 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour the child. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who was to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to Elohim and to his throne. Okay, well, she gave birth to Messiah, a male child, who will rule the nations with a rod of iron. And then her child was caught up to Elohim and his throne. He died, and he was resurrected and ascended. But it says here, the tail of Satan swept away 1/3 of the stars of heaven. What are the stars of heaven? That's what everyone thinks. Stars of heaven, people think they're angels. But I thought the sun, moon, and stars were Israel. So some of Israel was thrown down to the earth. Do you remember what happened right after the birth of Messiah? What did this guy named Herod try and do? We don't know. The 3rd is what they say here. We're not given a number. We're just told in this area around Bethlehem, all the male children 2 years old and under were killed. And how were they killed? So these soldiers, Roman soldiers, usually in this type of thing, didn't waste any time. You got the order, You grab the baby out of its mother's arms, and you swing it by its feet and hit its head against a rock or a tree. Okay? That's what they would do, and that's what's being referenced here. Revelation in and of itself is not hard to understand. We just had, okay, well, we need another witness as to what sun, moon, and stars mean. What was Abraham told? His descendants would be multiplied as the stars of heaven. Right. So that's what the reference is. It's those descendants of Abraham. But, this one is real easy. But this symbol of the woman with the sun, moon, and stars is very simple. But the rest of them are too. All of Revelation can be understood that same way. Going back to Joseph here. Why did he tell his brothers about this one? It's, he seems to have a sizable ego. Verses 10 and 11, he related it to his father and to his brothers. And his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you've had? Shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come to bow ourselves down before you to the ground?" And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind. They weren't really jealous, they were envious of him. There's a difference. Okay? I think that term jealous is misused often by a lot of people. Jealousy is really protecting that which is yours. Okay? Elohim says he's a jealous Elohim. He wants to protect, he wants his people to worship him alone. If someone is hitting on a man's wife, he is going to protect her, okay, and keep him away. That's jealousy. That's showing love, is what that is. Envy is desiring that which is not yours. There's a huge difference. Envy and coveting are much different. But his brothers were envious of him, and his father kept these things in mind. Okay? Verse 12, then his brothers went to pasture their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers pasturing the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them." And he said to him, "I will go." Then he said to him, "Go now and see about the welfare of your brothers and the welfare of the flock, and bring word back to me." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. So Israel sends Joseph to check on his brothers that are pasturing the flocks. Maybe he thinks, maybe they need some time together. Here, take a football with you. Throw it around when you get there. Get some bonding going there or something, maybe. Verse 15. And the man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, "What are you looking for?" And he said, "I'm looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they're pasturing the flock." Then the man said, "They have moved from here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. Now, the journey from Hebron to Shechem to Dothan is over 60 miles. So they're taking those flocks over hill and dale here to get to different places. Verse 18, when they saw him from a distance and before he came close to them, they plotted against him to put him to death. And they said to one another, "Here comes this dreamer. Now then, come and let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. And we'll say, 'A wild beast devoured him.' Then let us see what will become of his dreams." Okay, this was premeditated, but not premeditated for a long time. Okay, it looks like they planned this when they just saw him coming, almost like a whim. And keep in mind too, what happened last chapter we studied. What did a couple of Israel's sons do? They wiped out a city. Okay? These are, why would he choose people like this? Why would Elohim choose people like this? You'd think he'd get good guys, wouldn't you? Just a bunch of good guys? Just a bunch of accountants or something that don't cause anybody any trouble. They're meek and mild. No, he chooses whom he will. I'm glad too, because, we're not always such good guys either. We got to keep that in mind. Yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking, yeah, he said he kept that in mind. He didn't know it would happen, though, I don't think. He thought they would go that far. I think he was hoping they would bond. I think the problem was when they're there, Joseph gets too much preferential treatment. Get him away from daddy. Let him be one of the boys. And maybe they'll all get along. That's what I think was on his mind. Verses 21 and 22. But Reuben heard this and rescued him out of their hands and said, let us not take his life. Reuben further said to them, shed no blood. Throw him into this pit that is in the wilderness, but do not lay hands on him. And he did that he might rescue him out of their hands to restore him to his father. So Reuben was apparently outnumbered 10-1. He saw the only chance to save his brother's life is to plan a way for them to leave him to die. Then Reuben can come back later and rescue him and take him back to dad. Verse 23. So it came about when Joseph reached his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the varicolored tunic that was on him. And they took him and threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty without any water in it. Then they sat down to eat a meal, and as they raised their eyes and looked, behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead with their camels bearing aromatic gum and balm and myrrh on their way to bring them down to Egypt. So they took Joseph and they stripped him, and they threw him in that pit. There's no water in there. He just traveled 60 miles on foot, I guess. And that's pretty cruel. Verse 26. And Judah said to his brothers, what profit is it for us to kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him, for he's our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers listened to him. Then some Midianite traders passed by, so they pulled him up and lifted Joseph out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. Thus they brought Joseph into Egypt. Now, this is kind of a cruel thing to do to your brother. But like I said, they killed the whole town off because their sister was disgraced. They were very capable of evil and violence. It says Midianite traders passed by. It would appear that Midianites and Ishmaelites are almost interchangeable in this passage, and I would say that they were Ishmaelites from Midian in this case. Verse 29, now Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. So he tore his garments. And he returned to his brothers and said, the boy's not there. As for me, where am I to go? So they took Joseph's tunic and slaughtered a male goat and dipped the tunic in the blood. And they sent the varicolored tunic and brought it to their father and said, we found this. Please examine it to see whether it is your son's tunic or not. Well, Reuben appears to be an innocent one in this whole ugly episode. So at least we have one guy. Okay, he's not in on it. He's a good guy, right? Reuben? What did Reuben do? I see shaking heads out there. Huh? There was a previous situation, wasn't there? Yeah, he bedded down one of his father's wives. See, this is well, anyway. These sins about these young men, that's going to lead to 400 years of captivity for their descendants, okay? It's not like they're going to get away with this stuff. They won't. And this was prophesied to their great-grandfather, Abraham. Genesis 15, verse 13. And Elohim said to Abram, know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, where they will be enslaved and oppressed 400 years. So that's exactly what was prophesied, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Verse 33, then he examined it and said, it is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces. So Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. Then all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, surely I will go down to Sheol, to the grave, in mourning for my son. So his father wept for him. Well, 10 of the sons of Israel intended evil on their brother, but the one who will suffer the most, his father. They try to comfort him, but he won't allow himself to be comforted. He fully intends to mourn for Joseph until the day he dies. Interesting here, too, it says his sons and his daughters. So he had daughters, too. We're not told how many. We only know about the one, Dinah. But apparently he had several. Verse 36, meanwhile, the Midianites sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, Pharaoh's officer, the captain of the bodyguard. Now, Joseph ends up in Egypt. Now, keep in mind, they sold him to Ishmaelites from Midian. But he's going to end up in Egypt, which is where they're all going to end up also. And they're thinking he's going to spend the rest of his short life in Midian as a slave. You know, slaves, the lifespan of slaves. I didn't see the statistic, but I think it's a short number. But imagine the surprise when they see him as the second in command of the most powerful nation in the world in that day, just a few years later. So, any questions on Genesis